And we are good to go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict show. So excited to be here. How are you?
Some days it's actually a lot easier for me emotionally to sort of
Why?
deal with what's going on in the world. And then some
Yeah.
days it's harder. And I'm going to be honest, today is one of those days where looking at what's happening in the world is actually starting to scare me.
Uh,
And I know that it should,
oh, yeah.
you
You're not
know,
gonna get married soon. You
it's true.
just should have had, like, why worry about it? Like the
well,
Italians say, why worry about it? Just enjoy it.
I think it's partially because I'm about to get married and because we're going to start trying for kids and all of that, thinking about the state of the world. And I think for those of you like you who already have children, it's
Don't worry. I got you back.
okay.
I
I
got you
know you
covered.
do. I
Don't
know
you
you
worry.
do.
I got the whole tribe covered. No worries.
Well,
So.
you do, and I really appreciate that.
You're most welcome. Anyway, so excited to be with you guys, and we mean it. I mean it. She
Mhm.
means it. So what are we gonna be talking about today?
All right, we have a bunch of topics, so I'm going to go over them really quickly. And the
Sure.
first one is that the BRICS summit started. The long-awaited BRICS
Waited.
summit. I mean,
Yes.
we've been waiting for this for months to see what happens. And there's a bunch of interesting stuff going on, including the countries that are showing up to this or have shown up to this summit.
You want to know how many?
Yeah,
Quickly.
yeah.
69.
69. And who exactly are there?
Yeah.
So that one we're going to do later in the show.
Yeah.
The next one is that India is actually standing up to China, which is a very interesting development considering the BRICS summit. It's
Yeah.
very interesting that, India is a BRICS country and China
Yeah.
is a BRICS country.
Yeah.
So how are they standing up to China?
If you only know where the comment came from, who issued that statement,
Yeah.
we're gonna share it with our viewers.
We're gonna share that and dive
Yeah.
into it. The next is that Zelensky is asking Sweden for Gripen jets.
Oh,
The
upgrade now.
Yeah,
Oh,
so an upgrade,
yeah.
and
What did he get? He got the Jets?
he so we'll dive into that a little bit later because he is in fact getting jets from other countries, but is it really from the other countries?
Yeah.
So we'll talk about Zelensky going and basically begging his way again through the rounds. The amount of money and resources that Zelensky has gotten, he should be winning.
Winning, yeah.
And he's not.
Let alone
So
the hidden info that nobody knows about.
right.
It's a major general, a U.S. major general, was killed in a missile strike inside Ukraine
Oh wow.
because he was in headquarters. I know it
Yeah.
won't get reported.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting what is and isn't getting
oh,
reported
big
about
time.
actually about all of this
Yeah.
situation. All of these situations. And then our first topic today is our president, US President Joe Biden is open to meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un about denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula.
Good luck. I'm laughing. I'm
What?
laughing because how hilarious and stupid our
Mhm.
administration is. Let alone the president, demented president, that he doesn't even
Yeah.
know what he had for dinner. I don't shy away from saying it. I have great respect for elderly.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
I could be. It could be me one day. But if I
Right.
take good care of my health, I wouldn't worry. But with something like this, for him to be saying we're gonna denuclearize the Korean Peninsula,
Yeah.
good luck with that. And that's what we're gonna
Absolutely.
dive in today and all that. Before we get into all this, guys, if this is your first time here, please subscribe to the channel. We truly appreciate it. And also, would like to give you a heads up about the course. Where are we on the course?
So the course, guys, I know we've been talking about it for months, and we are going to release the sign up for it tomorrow.
Great.
So
I
yes,
look
so if you
forward to
guys,
that.
if you go and sign up for our free newsletter down here at www.geopoliticsinconflict.com, if you sign up for our free newsletter, I will send out the information if you guys want to know about if you guys want to actually sign up for the government course that David is going to be teaching live. So check it out down there. The link is geopoliticsinconflict.com.
Great. All right, let's get into all this here. I will start, as you mentioned earlier, with our topic about North Korea and the US saying, well, we'll be willing to sit down. Here is what I found very interesting about it, that we used the first time we used no preconditions.
Yeah.
So, and that it's nothing but it just hypes.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing that we want you to understand. When this statement was released, that's one. The timing is always in geopolitics, the timing
Absolutely.
is always crucial. Second thing, what is the really objective of it? Denuclearize the Korean Peninsula? No, ain't gonna happen. There is no way, no matter what you give North Korea,
Yeah.
they're not gonna, because they know that's their wild card.
It
you know.
is.
And the third thing has to do where all of a sudden we are interested in talking to North Korea after we found out the reestablished diplomatic ties with Burkina Faso, who is in turn supporting Niger against France.
Yep.
All those dynamics comes to play a role in saying to yourself, really? The Biden administration is saying, do you want to sit down with North Korea?
You're absolutely right. Why right this moment?
Yeah.
Because you say this all the time. Geopolitics doesn't happen in a vacuum. You have to look at the context of what's happening. And Africa right now is a really big place where there is a global fight. And actually, the South African leader actually came out and he said, we are in the middle of basically warring nations.
Yeah.
The big powers in their conflicts right now.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but that is the truth.
Yeah.
Africa right now is actually caught in the middle of this.
Yeah. And the big elephant in the room, it has to do with what took place in Camp David this weekend.
Yes.
So let me share an image here. And because it's very, very important to put this in perspective. So you look at this image here.
Let's check it out.
That's the Yonso. That's the South Korean, the head of South Korea, and this is the Prime Minister Kishida. So they met at Camp David. They came over. I had a picture. I did a thumbnail on the other channel, and you know what I put the title?
What?
Kiss the ring.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So why am I bringing this up? Is because this was done quietly.
Yeah.
And you know what they end up agreeing to? Is a multi-year trilateral naval exercises.
Yep.
We all know what it means.
Right.
I feel comfortable saying now. This is why North Korea is going to be like shaking its head when the US saying, well, would like to sit down and talk about denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. How can we say that when we are moving the nukes to Australia and moving the nukes to South Korea?
Right.
That just, Philippines is another conversation altogether.
Absolutely.
Because we just also, regarding Philippines, we just announced publicly our support for Philippines.
Yep.
You know what it means? It means that Philippines, when I say Philippines, not the Filipino people, wonderful people.
Of course.
I'm referring to Marcos Jr. He was playing both sides.
Yep.
He took a trip to China, give them a lip service there.
Yep.
Then he turn over and sign the agreements with the US.
Yep.
So this just wanted to give you guys the laydown or the ground landscape, rather political one, that is to understand why all of a sudden we issue the statement about,
Right.
Then there is another element, and it has to do with our domestic politics, is the upcoming presidential elections.
Yep.
Because here's the thing. You know this, born here and understand how it is. Pictures matters, right?
They do.
Context matters. The fact that the Democrats could show a picture of President Biden sitting with Kim Jong-un, which I don't foresee that happening, sends like, hey, we are reaching for peace and so forth. It's all to serve the domestic agenda, when in reality, we have no intentions whatsoever.
And the thing is, it's very interesting because, if you know much about, if you guys know much about American politics, the reality is that right now, President Biden has a very, very low approval rating, like an abysmally low approval rating. And the Vice President Kamala Harris has an even worse approval rating. The problem is that the Democratic Party doesn't really have anybody else. They're running Biden again because they just don't have anybody else. And especially not anybody that has the same popularity that Trump or even DeSantis has.
Yeah.
And so right now they're trying to they're trying to build that support. But trying to denuclearize North Korea,
No, it's good luck
that
with that.
seems like the craziest. And not that it shouldn't or shouldn't happen, because I think it'd be nice if they didn't have them.
Yeah.
But the reality is that asking
Well, no,
them,
no, I disagree with you on that.
Really?
Why would it be nice?
I think it would be nice because
Because we have the nukes
right.
too. So would it be nice if we get rid of our nukes too?
No, but this is what I mean with that, because over time we've watched Kim Jong-il and then Kim Jong-un be sort of wild cards on the global stage.
They are.
And to me, I don't feel like countries that are wild cards should have that level of destructive power.
Oh,
that's my personal opinion.
I see, but I'll push back against your argument. I'll push back against it.
That's
because I don't agree. I don't agree. The reason being is because to them, to North Korea, is what's the word? Survival.
I get survival. That absolutely.
That's why we never. Yeah. Even as a former military myself, and I'm very familiar with block ops and all that. We couldn't even do a block up in North Korea. There is no way.
Right.
Yeah, they called it the Hermit Kingdom for a reason. It's enclosed.
Yeah.
Right. But the idea that we know that if we attack them,
right,
all hell will break loose.
Right.
And they do have, as a matter of fact, I'm going to share it with you guys. I'm going to share just one picture here. Because I didn't have the picture by itself. I had it in my share screen right there. Just this picture. Does it show?
Yes.
Oh,
it does.
Not this one. Not the
that
shoes.
Looks like shoes.
But no. It's this one here I'm looking at.
Okay.
Right here. This picture.
Yeah.
Right here. Do you know what that is, right? That's an ICBM.
Yeah.
And the reason why? Because North Korea tested this missile. Guess when? That coincided with the meeting in Camp David between Japan and South Korea.
Yep.
That tells you right there. The story is they're not going to be willing to give up, and they won't give up their nuclear stuff.
Right.
And second thing is, which is a question for you guys. Do you think North Korea has nuclear weapons? Just leave us an answer on the chat box, because I want to really see how much you know about this topic here, because it never gets reported. As a matter of fact, for us in the US, the intelligence community, we couldn't pinpoint exactly how many.
Right.
That is one of that's the reason why we couldn't do any block up or attack North Korea.
Yep. Well, and in reality, it just takes one. Right. Exactly. It just takes one.
Exactly.
It does not take a lot, but it's interesting that this is what they're talking about, right? Because based on the timing, especially as North Korea re-entered Burkina Faso and the entire situation that's happening in Africa, especially with Niger's recent coup, you're right. That is very interesting timing. And to be talking about that specifically, I think that's a topic that no matter what, they weren't going to agree to.
No,
that just isn't that's whether you agree with them having them or not.
Yeah,
it's just not going to happen. And interestingly enough, they said, like even in everything talking about it, they said, well, North Korea is not really interested in that. They're not really open to that. And I was like, of course they're not. They're just gonna do what? They're just gonna be like, okay, well, you guys asked nicely, so like here they are. That's ridiculous. That's not gonna happen. But as North Korea gets closer to Russia, and as North Korea actually gets closer to Africa, I think that's a power play, in my opinion.
And those are the dynamics. That's why Africa now is gonna, like I said before, it's the next geopolitical ring where the competition is going to be very fierce. Because if you think about North Korea and Russia, for example, and as a matter of fact, I just saw a picture of Yevgeny Prigozhin in Africa.
Yep.
In the desert.
Yep.
And I can tell the location. I've been around that part of the world, and that's the desert area in outside Mali. Because you think Mali.
Yeah.
Niger, Burkina Faso. So then desert there. Anyway, that's
well, and it's interesting what he's doing there. So there's films that are on the internet that he's making and to recruit.
Yeah, well, also to highlight
Africans.
to you, that the Wagner is ready to stand by Niger.
Yeah.
This is why now you have, for example, Algeria. Algeria just turned down France. France requested from Algeria to
Yep.
use their space. They said no, no. And I bet you this. By the way, we're not gonna get into it this time. Maybe next time, whatever.
Mhm.
I looked at the tactical aspects of conducting a military intervention in Niger.
Yeah.
It's disastrous from every angle you look at it.
Yep. Well, I
From
think
the
it's
air,
why
from
they're
the
not
ground.
doing it.
Yeah, it's not gonna work. It will be a disaster for them.
Mhm.
So by having now North Korea, and if you think about North Korea, what comes to your mind right away? Missile technology.
Right.
So
Right.
this is why we are concerned about. We don't want to rub them the wrong way.
Right.
So I think the Biden administration wants just to soften the blow by saying, we will say this to North Korea, while at the same time almost creating mini NATO in Asia.
Right.
Because for both Japan and South Korea,
Yeah.
I feel comfortable saying they have no sovereignty.
And I think
I feel comfortable
that's
saying
been sort of clear for many
Yeah.
years too.
Yeah.
You know, they've sort of always been under the fold
Oh,
and against North Korea,
Yeah.
which there are reasons on both sides. I mean, I understand why in some cases that's happening, but if you look at the case of Japan and North Korea,
yeah.
what do they have military wise? They have very, very small militaries. They have very small abilities to actually take care of themselves. And something that's sort of being passed around right now is that there is really a West versus BRICS countries. I'll call it that. A West versus BRICS countries situation that's happening right now.
Yeah.
And it is interesting watching countries begin to really pick sides here. And I think you're right. I think they chose sides a long time ago.
Well, it's the dynamics of it, because they are realizing that, you know what, it's now or never.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why I think the Biden administration wanted to do this, because they wanted to sort of play it safe by saying, well, we still can put you, meaning you, South Korea and Ukraine and Japan, in the front line. Yeah,
Interesting
Ukraine.
flip,
Because,
but yeah.
so because of that, then are they gonna say, no, let's just think about just throwing a bone for North
Mhm.
Korea, which North Korea, I think it's not gonna buy it. I'm trying to put here the link for our viewers just to see this one here. The idea of how Japan and South Korea, citizens in those countries are livid at their
Right.
government. So
Right.
this is the thumbnail that
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it speaks louder on it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. So that is where the difference is.
Yeah.
I don't foresee anything moving forward, and even if it does,
Yeah.
even the dog agrees.
agrees.
Yeah, you agree. Is that
Ramen.
Ramen?
Ramen. Yep.
Thanks, Ramen, for supporting my argument.
He does. He is 100% in your argument.
Yeah, on joking aside, I don't see North Korea even flinching on this statement by the
Yeah.
White House, because they know they can't trust
Yeah, of course.
not
of
just
course.
the Biden administration, but the whole American government. Well, we say one thing and do another.
Well, and honestly, I think most Americans don't trust the Biden administration either, and for good reason. Guys, we have Rumble that we are.
Yeah, speaking of Rumble.
Yeah, speaking of Rumble, we are on Rumble every Wednesday now. Quite frankly, because we got really tired of not being able to say what we want to say. And to me, especially, and the link is right there if you guys want to check us out on Rumble. We're actually able to speak freely on Rumble. But one of the things that bothers me the most, is actually what happened in Hawaii. And the Biden administration's response to what happened in Hawaii, to me, is beyond unacceptable. So if you want to hear us talk about some stuff that we can't talk about here, check it out on Rumble.
I had somebody put a comment, by the way, said, "What if you guys don't like YouTube? Just get out of it." But it's like, hold on a second. You're mixing things up and making things up, if I may use the term. It's not we're saying we don't like YouTube. I like YouTube.
Absolutely. I like YouTube too.
I mean, but I will criticize them if they are using this kind of tactics or policies that prevents YouTubers from speaking the truth. That's where my beef with that, as far as the platform in itself, I have nothing against it. It's
Yeah.
been quite a ride. It's been quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
I wish I would have done it 10 years ago, but 10 years ago, I was in a different setting
Yeah.
altogether. So when people put this kind of comments to me, it's,
Mhm.
don't sort of let your stupidity comes to the
Yeah.
fore.
I
Keep that to
agree. I
yourself
agree.
for that.
No,
So,
I love
yeah,
YouTube too. I watch a lot of YouTube videos.
yeah,
But the
uh,
reality is that one of the things that we're here to do for you guys is to bring you the unfiltered truth as we see it, the unfiltered analysis as we see it. And YouTube just isn't a platform that allows us to do that. But it does allow us to bring you guys a lot of information like this that Western media isn't talking about.
yeah,
I would venture to say almost all of the topics that we're covering right now, Western media really isn't covering, and they should. So it gives us the opportunity to do that. So in some ways, we're very, very grateful to YouTube, and in some ways, it's
yeah,
very frustrating to not be able to really talk about some of the things that really matter, because I personally don't believe that they should be the ones dictating what you can and cannot say.
yeah.
So that's why we're on Rumble if you guys want to check it out.
Great. All right.
All right,
Let's
next
move on
topic.
to our next topic here.
Zelensky asks Sweden for Gripen jets. So this is interesting because, Zelensky's walking around asking people for support. The real deal is even the Senate, even the US government right now is basically like Ukraine's counteroffensive has failed.
Yes.
And I wonder about that, and I wonder if that's, first of all, I actually believe that's probably true, but I also wonder if that's motivation for sending more money to Ukraine, more weapons to Ukraine, because right now, so Zelensky is going to ask for these Gripen jets, but he already has approval from the United States for Denmark and Netherlands to send F-16 fighters to Ukraine. They already have that. Right. And so to justify, okay, well, so this isn't working, so we have to escalate it. So we have to
Yeah.
escalate it. So we have to escalate it. So whether it's true or not, it's being used to send more troops and more money to Ukraine.
Yeah. Well, this is why that Major General, I wish I kept the picture on my Twitter feed.
Yeah.
He was killed in a missile strike on command center inside Ukraine, by the way.
Yeah.
Inside Kiev. Not Kiev, inside Ukraine. I don't remember the exact location, but that's with that Major General, U.S. Major General. So the next question would be, what is a U.S. Major General doing inside?
That's a great question. And
they
no
kind
one
of-
is talking about that
Oh,
in the
no,
US.
they won't talk about that one. They won't. So that's the same arguments for now. They are not talking about this idea of the F-16s.
Right.
Is because Russia has already warned. Because remember my conversation with Skyraider when he mentioned about anytime an F-16 is going to take off, the Russians will assume it carries a nuclear weapon because they are fitted for.
Yeah.
This is why NATO gets into heated arguments with Turkey when Turkey decided to buy the S-400 missile systems from Russia.
Yeah.
Because they are on a different frequency, first of all, and a different system. And S-400 is much more advanced, by the way, just FYI. And they didn't agree to that. So the idea of Ukraine getting this F-16, that will be considered an escalation. And that's World War III, basically.
And that's what I'm saying is, it feels like it just seems like there's more comfort around these escalations, right?
Kind of stuff,
And especially, more or less the Biden administration waged this all out, Ukraine conflict, more or less propaganda machine for the last 2 years now. It is in chain is about somewhere around there. And the reality is that it failed. The reality is that it's unpopular. The reality is that we keep sending money over there. This is a soapbox for me, but the reality is that we keep sending money over there. And recently it just came out, Hawaii, right? We've had actual disasters here in the United States. And the latest information that I read was that each Hawaiian family was getting $700 $700, which isn't enough to rebuild anything, while we have now sent hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. And so, the American people were sitting here looking at the situation and saying, who does the Biden administration actually care about?
Yeah.
Who do they represent?
That's
Is
true.
it Ukraine? Is it Zelensky, who seems to be begging at a different nation every single week or every single month? There he is at a new country asking for more money, asking for more weapons. Somebody called, I think it's the UK defense minister, called
Ben Wallace.
Yeah, who said they're not an Amazon delivery service for Ukraine.
It did.
So this really bothers me, and it doesn't seem that he has any level of real gratitude for what the rest of the world is actually giving up so that he can go fight the Russians. And it's to me, this is my big soapbox. This is my big upset. Is the people here at home are absolutely not being taken care of when we have severe disasters that are happening here. $700 is ridiculous.
The Biden admired, let alone that Biden was in Hawaii, I think, and fall asleep.
Well, don't worry. To him, I guess it's not that interesting.
Elderly, yeah. So the idea of this, just to go back to our topic.
Sorry for my soapbox, David, but it bothers me a lot. It bothers me a whole lot.
Well, you mean you will wish and hope that Americans will wake up?
Yeah.
I'm still wondering why. Why are they like so distracted, so easily manipulated? You will think just common sense.
Yeah.
But you realize, well, wait a minute. Maybe they have never been trained to think critically.
Right.
So whatever the government says, they end up shoving it down their throat, and that's it. So it's the people also take the part of the blame also.
Of course.
I'm one who likes to be fair. Yes, the government has its share of blame, but also the people. Go educate yourself about the issues instead of just blaming up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, some of us are not willing to do that.
Yeah.
Because this American citizen, and I'm not speaking that everybody is that way.
Yeah.
I'd rather sit and stare at the idiot box for hours and hours, and just dumping myself and dumbing myself as far as being well informed.
Right.
Then turn around and blame the government.
Yeah.
It's kind of, sort of, isn't that saying goes, you get what you vote for?
Absolutely. And the reality is that for the most part, we let ourselves be blinded by whatever our governments say, whatever the media says, whatever the news says. People let themselves be blinded by that information instead of going and looking at it for themselves. The problem is we now have a country and we now have a world that is a result of that.
Yeah.
And so the United States is in rough shape. The average person here is in really rough shape. I mean, to buy a house here is very, very hard. To even pay for groceries, it's very hard. The amount of money that we're making, I mean, inflation has hit us horribly. And not only inflation, but the reality is that companies don't always need to charge so much. It's not just inflation. It's straight up manipulation. And so this bothers me enormously for a lot of reasons, that Sweden is actually saying, well, yes, so we're interested in this. We're interested in giving Zelensky more support. At what point does this stop? At what point does the world wake up and say, this cannot continue? The price of it is too high for everybody else. It's too high for us here. It's too high for the Hawaiians, who now have lost their land, have lost their livelihoods, have lost absolutely everything. And in some cases, their lives, their children.
Yeah.
At what point does this stop? And I'm sorry for my soapbox.
No.
But this really bothers me a lot.
Yeah. Here, I found the picture. I want to share it with our viewers.
Please.
While I have it. Yeah, because, the truth matters. I don't sort of, you just have to share it the way it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that there's actually more people who really do think like this, who just are not, either don't have the courage, or who don't know that there's another way.
Stop sharing. Okay, why am I not getting it here? Okay, here's the picture. Let me share it.
Okay.
technology.
That's
So
okay. I can't see
right
it
here.
yet.
Look at
Oh,
that.
there. Hold
Yeah.
on. Add it to the stream, David.
Oh, yes.
There it is.
Yeah.
Oh
Can you see, guys?
no.
Yeah.
Oh
It,
no.
it's an insult to the Hawaiian.
Oh
You know.
no.
So it's kind of probably somebody not on kick the chair and say, "Wake up, man."
Yeah.
So it's this is not a laughing matter. This is not a
Oh.
laughing matter. It's just the idea of, and who's to say? I won't be surprised that maybe Hawaii might be asking for independence
Yeah.
soon. So,
Well, I
so
mean, being treated like that,
oh
being
yeah,
treated
yeah,
with such disrespect like that.
yeah.
And Biden's actually under a lot of fire right now for his comments and for joking about that. That is one of the worst disasters that could possibly happen to
Yeah.
anyone.
And he doesn't care. So,
Ugh.
so to go back quickly and close out that topic
Yes.
before we move on, for the Zelensky, pardon me, the Canadian President Zelensky hoping for an F-16 ain't gonna
Mhm.
happen. Even though I just find out on my way here
Yeah.
that Greece offered to train,
Yes.
which is nothing
Right.
but hypes.
Right. And so Ukraine and Sweden also signed an agreement that'll have Ukraine begin production on Sweden's CV-90 combat vehicles.
Yeah.
Um
Well, basically, that's what he ended up getting
yeah.
from Sweden. He ain't gonna get the FC. There is no way.
Well, but he is talking about their need to stand with Zelensky on his troubles. So Christensen said, so when Christensen made his remarks, he was not talking about the gripens. Those did not come into his particular remarks. But he did condemn a Russian missile attack on Ukraine that killed 7 people and wounded 90. And he said, quote, "It only reinforces the need for us to stand with you in all your struggles." So what I can't tell is if that's hype, which it might be, but at least he's publicly saying that. And to me, that sounds insane.
Yeah.
It sounds insane that this is continuing to happen. So the Swedish defense minister, Paul Johnson, said on Tuesday that the government was planning a new 313 million military support package to Ukraine. Ammunition, spare parts on the weapons they already gave them.
Yeah.
So that package will be Sweden's 13th aid package to Ukraine since the start of the war. And the total value of all of their aid has been $1.8 billion.
Wow.
And compared to the US, that's, 1.8, it's nothing.
It's nothing.
But Sweden's a much smaller country than the United States is, with a much smaller economy. 13th aid package? How much aid does Zelensky need?
Needs to get.
What does he need?
Yeah. And all this, by the way, came on the background of 2 main events regarding the weapons.
Mm-hmm.
One of them has to do with, believe it or not, Indonesia just signed the deal with the US, latest version of F-15. Then the Congress just approved, I think, $12 billion sale of Apache helicopters to Poland.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
this is where you see, just to understand these dynamics, you will hear, excuse me, the US will give F-16s. It's nothing but just for domestic consumption.
Yeah.
No more, no less. Zelensky ain't gonna get F-16s.
Yeah.
That's the red line.
I hope. I
He
actually
won't.
very much hope that
And
will
even
not
if
happen.
he gets them, who's gonna fly them?
Well, so that's the other question,
Say
right?
it.
Because it takes what is it, a year, 2 years? It takes 4 years to train somebody, to train a Ukrainian to be able to do that. We have not been in this conflict for 4 years yet.
Yeah.
So who is going to fly them?
Fly them. Where?
Right?
Some of us. Western
Who
pilots.
is going to fly them? And if that's the case, because the US has kept saying, "Oh, no, NATO, no, we're not going to do that. Oh, we're not joining. We're not really part of this war." But one step at a time, it seems that is becoming more and more the case.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So I'll conclude with this. The Canadian President Zelensky is delusional. I'll leave it at that. It's because no matter what you hear, no matter what statements, he doesn't understand. He doesn't grasp the severity of what it's like to get closer to that red line dealing with the nuclear power.
Yeah.
I'm not saying being scared of Russians, whatever. Russians don't bluff.
Right.
That is one thing that I have learned at least when I did the research for my book about Russia.
Yeah.
Throughout their history, they were always will fight back.
Yeah.
Now they are armed with some serious nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Zelensky doesn't. He doesn't. Poor guy. He doesn't know. He doesn't.
Well, and honestly, even from the beginning, I actually don't understand why people didn't throw a bigger fit about what he seems to be playing a role. He's wearing a costume.
We decided on that. We
Yeah.
made that decision back in 2008. That's
Yeah.
how far back we go. We decided on it and we saw an opportunity.
Mhm.
This is the same now, what it's going on right now on a different capacity
Yeah.
in Argentina.
Yeah.
What I'm referring briefly here before we get into our topic. There's a guy, his name is Javier Malay, who's running for president of Argentina. You know what he's running on? To dollarize,
Yes.
to bring the
Oh my
dollar back.
God. Yeah.
If you know Argentina, what do you
Yeah.
know about Argentina?
IMF loan.
He sank
Yep.
into that debt.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, it was never disclosed. I found it in the research. You know what's their debt to GDP is?
Mm.
$305 billion.
Oh God.
So
Because Argentina is not a large economy.
and now this guy wants to use the dollar.
Yeah.
So right there, I saw the writing on the wall.
Right.
He already got the nod from Washington.
Mhm.
Hey, we'll be happy to support, because Argentina is no small country in
Right.
Latin America.
In Latin America,
But
absolutely.
also there is the other elements that's going on. What Argentina has with China,
Yeah.
the BRI.
Yeah. The BRI.
That's where it's all about.
Well, and if you notice the BRI, it's interesting which countries are taking the BRI, which
Yeah.
countries are not
Aren't.
taking the
Yeah.
BRI. Very interesting. And that's a great segue into our next topic,
Yeah.
which is India standing up to China.
Oh, India.
So India, hypothetically, and David, I'm very interested in your take on this. India is hypothetically taking strides to expand its influence in
Yeah.
Southeast Asia to counter China's dominance in that
Yeah.
region. What do you really think about that
there's
situation?
nothing but hypes, no more, no less. It's
Yeah.
nothing but hypes. India is not in a position to tilt the balance of power one way or another.
Yeah.
India, as a matter of fact, now, and again, I have nothing against India. I know I've been reading some comments. I don't like India. I hate India.
No.
Hate is a negative emotion.
Yeah.
I don't carry that kind of stuff. I don't think like that. But I won't shy away from saying the truth.
Yeah.
That India is playing both sides. There are those who argue it's for strategic national interest. I understand that argument.
Yeah.
I am not against it. But at the same time, at some point, you're going to have to draw the line. Where do you stand on the
Right.
side of the fence? Which side are you on?
Right.
So when we hear something like this, you're going to realize that now the failure of the Prime Minister Modi is being exposed, because what did he
Yeah.
promise? If you go back to his statements, and I did
Yeah.
find some stuff back then, that he's going to increase the jobs and so forth, all
Yeah.
that once in the reverse, let alone the social ethnic tensions. We all know, you
Yeah.
all know what's going on in Manipur. As a matter of fact, even up to today, Prime Minister Modi refused to address the issue of Manipur in parliament.
Yeah.
So, but that's their issue. They can deal with it. What am I referring to here? I'm referring to an analysis was done by none other by a guy by the name Derek Grossman.
Mhm.
Now, if you know who Grossman is, he's a former intelligence officer.
Mhm.
So here is how it works in the US. Once you're done with the intelligence community, you go to work for think tank.
Yeah.
Who does he work for?
Absolutely.
He works for Rand Corporation.
Mhm.
What is Rand Corporation? Is the backdoor of the US government.
Yeah.
The Rand corporations, for example, I was familiar with a guy by the name, geez, I drew a blank on it.
Well, David, you can't remember every single
Yeah, well-
name. You
well,
remember
usually-
most of them.
Usually they'll come to mind. But anyway,
Yeah.
this guy used to travel into where we had and
Mhm.
have conflict,
Yeah.
war zones, if you may call. Then he will conduct an analysis
Mhm.
and present the report.
Yeah.
Well, who do you think the consumer for that product?
Right. No,
is?
that right. Who
Yeah.
literally who else would
So
buy that
he will be
product?
pushing for more weapons, more and this and that.
Yeah.
This is no different than this guy, because this guy here, now he used to brief the Undersecretary of Defense for Asia.
Mm,
That is one.
Yep.
So you can just see where the agenda is going to be going.
Right.
Second thing, for Asia and Pacific, for all that. And second thing that he argued, and I put this in quote, that for now is that Washington, close partner New Delhi, has generally succeeded in starving off Beijing rising influence across the region, which is nonsense. You can
What?
just see. This is why I said, you guys, if you get anything from our channel here,
Mhm.
is that you start to think critically. Just because somebody is writing this analysis, you fall for it. You need to know how to read between the lines.
Yeah.
What this guy is saying, he's pushing India to the forefront.
Yeah.
We know that. Yes, it's ally, whatever, but we are using India. We're gonna be using
Mhm.
India to the last Indian.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. So his argument about, because he's mentioning about South Asia.
Yeah.
Now again, what is the difference here? You look at a South Asia and you
Yeah.
look at a Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
He's focused on South Asia
Yeah.
by design, because if you look at who is in South Asia, I'm gonna just share with you quick countries here: Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, the Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. And his argument is that they all been a hotbed for strategic rivalry between China
Right.
and no, it's not. It is not.
Sri Lanka?
Yeah, the rivalry between the US and China has nothing to do with this. It has to do with the technology,
Absolutely.
where China is,
Yeah.
and we couldn't compete with that.
Right.
So for somebody to be saying a statement like this is nonsense, in my opinion.
It seems very much nonsense.
Here's the guy. It says, the author of this, Mark Grossman. He currently a defense analyst at the Rand Corporation.
Mhm.
And so to me, just it became clear we are using India, and this is why I'm becoming convinced. And it took me a few years to make sure when I say something, I am very convinced about, because that's my credibility in life.
Of course.
I'm becoming convinced that for India is nothing but a hollow existence on the international stage. Yeah. Because India only a few months ago said, well, we're going to become the spokesperson for the global South. Hold on a second. How can you become the spokesperson for global South when you are playing both sides?
Right.
If you look at now, to tie it to BRICS ongoing stuff, most of those 69 countries from the global South wanted to go with BRICS.
Absolutely.
And India
that's why they're there.
And India's playing both sides.
Yeah.
You saying you want to do this, but at the same time you're in Quad.
Yeah. No, it's very, very interesting. Yeah. It's very interesting, and I think you're absolutely right. And I wonder who was meant to consume this information.
Exactly.
Right? Like who was this meant for? Because especially it is interesting timing. Timing is a very important thing. Interesting timing that this is now coming out at the same time when so many other countries are looking to join BRICS.
And there are some others are calling for India to leave.
Very interesting, because they are calling
it's
for
the
India.
weak link. It's the weak link. I've been saying this for quite a while now.
Yeah.
Again, nothing against India, but it's a weak link in BRICS.
Yeah.
They're gonna need to make a decision on this.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting to read the final communique that they're gonna issue tomorrow, or after tomorrow.
Yeah.
I always read the final communiques, because that's usually where you get a hint about the policies. For India, it's now or never. I believe they should come to an agreement, all of them, that here is where things are.
Yeah.
You either
are in or out.
You
well,
can't
and
be
and India still does have the conflict with China over the Himalayan border.
Exactly. And that's what this guy this guy who wrote the analysis, not a guy, you call him by name. His name is, what's his name again? Grossman. funny how he mentioned that what the clashes between, he didn't even use what he used as far as the Himalayan. He used specific term. He said, from the Himalayan to the islands of the Indian subcontinent is taking crucial, significant, and could determine the fate of Washington's strategy to keep the region open and free of Chinese influence.
Also, it's not free of Chinese influence.
Exactly.
What?
And this is where I kind of, when I read stuff like this, I get bored, because I know how misleading it is, because majority of people will not know how to read, an analysis like this. Between it's analysis can be very powerful. If you word it certain ways, you can steer the trajectory any way you want. This guy, that's what he's saying, this by order. This is not the whim of his thinking. This is by order to push the narrative certain directions. Of course, one of the key consumer for this is going to be Indian Prime Minister. That's one. And second, because we wanted to ensure that all the other so-called allies over there, the likes of the Philippines, the likes of South Korea, Japan, I'm even now putting big question mark on Indonesia to a degree. Singapore, give or take, because even within ASEAN, there's a division that exists there. Not all of them on same shit of music, shall we say? So for him to say, well, India is staving off China, no. It's nonsense.
That is nonsense. And if he had done an economic analysis, I would feel very differently about that situation. But the economic analysis, not that I could find, isn't there. This is all like, well, and not just speaking to his, but they're talking about Vietnam and how India is giving Vietnam weapons, something like that.
Let
me see if I can find it. Where are you? So it seems like stuff like that instead of a real economic analysis. Because to me, a country's real allegiance happens through economy, or what a country really says happens through economy. So, remember we talked about the US sanctions on Russia. Well, if the US is still bringing in uranium from Russia because they just, I guess, decided that that's not part of the sanctions. So you look at those situations, and if you look at the real economics of that situation, that's where you find the truth.
Exactly.
Not in what they say.
Well, speaking of that, I have a picture.
Oh,
I'd like to share.
I love it.
Speaks volume about the Chinese and the Indians when it comes down to economy. Just take a look at this, guys. I'm going to share it with you here.
Because it's not even comparable.
And it's animated graph here that you can see.
Oh, this animated graph is interesting. It's a very good.
Can you see? Look at that.
I love the music that's going on with it. I'm gonna turn that music off.
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah. Look at that. The graph is saying the picture. Look at this. 1984, 85. Yes, they crossed at some point, but just look after 1990.
Yep.
Look at that.
Steep drop off and steep rise for China.
So for this guy to be saying, India staving off China, it's nonsense. Look at that.
Yeah. No, that's not staving off anything.
Yeah. And it's still going.
Yep.
So our issue. I checked this and I read up on the analysis for this one here, and that's exactly what it's showing.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're showing this graph, David, because
just for what they have to see it. You guys have to see the reality to understand it. So when they're saying what's staving off, no, it has to do with us not being able to compete with Chinese technologically. Because now, did you know that China now become the top mechanical, something has to do. I did a video on the other channel about Germany. Do you know that China turned down $100 billion German car order?
Yeah.
$100 billion. So,
well, because they can.
Well, that's one, but also because the West made the mistake thinking that they can cut off the technology from China,
Right.
they end up,
Absolutely.
they end up, it's
Absolutely.
backfiring on
Yep.
themselves.
That's Biden's executive order that just
Well,
happened.
if you only know, maybe we need to do a show on it.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? You want a show on this? Just leave us the answer on this one here. All right, let's move on to our next topic.
All right. Our next topic is the BRICS summit starts today. The one that we've been looking towards, I'm looking forward towards. I don't know if I'm looking forward towards it, but it is happening now. It's the one that has been speculated about for months and months and months. There, like you said, there are 69 countries, including all of the African countries, are there. Specifically, I think it's very interesting that all the African countries are there. We've been talking about Africa a whole lot.
Yeah.
And if the BRICS countries more or less get the continent of Africa on board. Now, I know it's a bunch of countries to get on board, but the goodwill that's being built up, Russia excused, I think it was $23 billion worth of debt.
That's correct.
They said they would send grain for free. So there's a lot of goodwill that's being built up. Wagner is in Niger right now.
Already.
And Wagner is not only in Niger, but they have ties in Libya. They have ties in other parts of Africa.
Mali, Burkina Faso.
Right? Mali, Burkina Faso. Yes. And so we're looking at a situation where, I think that if BRICS gets Africa, which is rich in gold, it's rich in uranium, it's rich in natural oil, natural resources. There's the BRI, there is the oil pipeline that was supposed to go to Europe. We're looking at BRICS having a real power play if they get Africa.
Yeah. By the way, before I forget, just FYI, guys, did you know that France was turned down from attending BRICS?
Yeah.
Did you know they asked, but they were turned down?
And it's also actually interesting that Macron has kind of been playing that also double game.
Testing the waters.
He's been testing the waters, and he has said a couple of very positive things about BRICS and a couple of negative things about the US dollar. So we're watching him kind of play both sides.
I won't trust him.
I wouldn't trust him either.
So, and this is where the idea of now the BRICS, of course, we're not gonna, you already know, because we talked about BRICS so many times now. The question about BRICS now has to do with really, is the moment now or never? Because you're looking at the changing in the cracks are as big as it can be in the unipolar system.
Yeah.
I read an article by, I'm sure you guys know who Vijay Prashad from. He's a historian, a PhD guy from India, very, very savvy guy, very, very intellectual guy. So, and I read his article, right to the point, and I couldn't agree with him. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's because the unipolar system now showing those cracks, and this is why you're seeing this massive demand for BRICS. Now, the way I see it, till BRICS resolve the issue with India first before they bring in anybody. Otherwise, the way I see it, it's almost like pouring water over sand.
Right.
India is the weak link in BRICS.
Absolutely.
So they need to make a definitive decision, because you can't be wishy-washy about this. And here is the reason why I'm saying this. The way I see it moving forward, strategically, that is, the unipolar is cracking, and usually think of it like an egg. When an egg cracks, what happens? That crack starts to expand, and all of a sudden,
everything falls out.
Yeah. Same thing. And what is the challenge to the West? And by the way, this is why the West is now reporting on BRICS Summit.
Yeah.
Did you notice?
I absolutely noticed.
I checked this morning.
Yeah.
Nothing is said there about the BRICS. Because the West...
And it starts today.
Today and for the next 2 days. Yeah. There is nothing there because they know that BRICS could. And I say could. Because so far, and I'll say it straightforward, BRICS has not lived up to its potentials.
Right.
Why? Because the division that exists from within.
Right.
We're talking about two, India and China.
Yep.
Their issue has not been resolved. Credibility is online.
Well, and I also wonder why that hasn't been resolved, because if China can go broker peace in other countries, why can it not deal with it
it's
in its own?
us pushing India from behind.
Well, but we also have a lot of ties to the Saudis. The Saudi lobby here is substantial.
But the Saudis gonna move forward.
It seems to be.
They are. So the idea of how, for example, what's the word I'm looking for? The economics. No, the economics of BRICS. When you put actually, I have a picture I need to share with you guys, because you need to understand the percentages of what I can make it bigger than this, but so
That's okay. Well, let's check it out. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, that would be nice if that were bigger, but that's okay.
let me. I have it somewhere.
That's okay. We can sort of see it, and
Can you see it? Okay.
Well, and it's talking about the economics.
So here's the thing: you're looking at BRICS. We just take BRICS. We're looking at 23%, because BRICS accounts for 23% of global GDP, 42% of the world population, and more than 16% of global trade.
Yeah.
So
with that number increasing.
Yeah. If you add in countries like, for example, Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia, where it's going to make its mark, it's in the development bank.
Right.
Let alone the currency, which, by the way, analysis has been reported now that you're looking at about 90% of the energy transactions will be conducted in other currency besides the US dollar. And that's a seismic for itself.
Absolutely.
Speaking volume. Why this time around? The BRICS is very different from the previous. This 15 summit, it's big time.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. Number one, because of the power that the BRICS nations now have.
Exactly.
And it's growing. So the BRICS nations, in terms of global GDP, in terms of world's population, so in terms of their growth, they are stronger. And the fact that so many other countries want to join is a really big deal. And I think that's why that isn't being talked about here in the United States, because I think if people really knew the size of this problem, they would stop being distracted by everything else. So you're looking at basically, and it's not all these countries, right? It's not all 69 of these countries that have shown up will join BRICS, but some real powerful ones are wanting to. Yeah. And I think if people realized how vast that is of a problem for the US hegemony, I think they would really wake up to what's happening.
Yeah, but I believe BRICS will have to have a mechanism in place. They can't just expand that big. Let me share with you.
Oh, absolutely. To expand that big overnight? Oh my God.
Let me share with you guys what Prashad wrote, and I quote here. There are growing cracks in the unipolar international order imposed by Washington and Brussels on the rest of the world through the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, the International Financial System, a reference to IMF, the control of information flow in both through the traditional and social media networks, and the indiscriminate use of unilateral sanctions against an increasing number of countries. As the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres recently put it, in quote, the post-Cold War period is over. A transition is underway to a new global order. End of quote. So, and this is where you're going to have to think about the sort of the key to what BRICS can do to make this time different, but also a beginning of a new era.
Yeah.
So because you look at it, the three main ones, the expansion of BRICS, of course. Second one, the expansion of membership in Youth Development Bank. This is where the Saudis is going to make big money. They get enough money. Then the third one has to do with the New Development Bank role in creating alternative to the use of the dollar.
Yep. And that's something we've been really talking about and thinking about is what is this what is this currency going to be?
But I have, again, that reservation. Till BRICS resolve the internal issue with India.
Yeah.
It's not going to move smoothly.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's the
I
way
think
I see it.
I think you're absolutely right. And that is because if you have internal turmoil, that's what'll bring you down, right?
Yeah.
People think that it's from the outside that'll bring you down.
No.
But even when we're looking at the United States, it's internally what's happening here that is bringing our country down.
Yeah.
It's internally what's happening to the debt, the US dollar
Dollar.
being de-dollarized, the fact that our infrastructure is crumbling, the fact that our leaders are not this is my personal opinion, but I would not have chosen either Donald Trump or Joe Biden. I would
Yeah.
not have chosen any actually of the presidents that have existed as long as I have been old enough to vote. I would not have chosen any of those people to be a leader,
We
right?
don't have qualified.
We don't. I would not have chosen those people. And so we're looking at a situation where from the inside, you're right, there are cracks. It is not a unified front. We are looking at unification between Russia and China, though. So those are two big players. And it's interesting because remember South Africa when, when the whole ICC thing happened with Vladimir Putin
Yeah.
and, they said, well, if he comes, then we'll arrest him. So he decided not to come. And now he's joining, digitally. Originally they said we will provide him with security.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting claim to say we will support him if he comes here. And granted, I think it was the right move for him because it allows BRICS to be the agenda to actually take the forefront.
Yeah.
Because if he had come, the amount of distractive drama that would have happened, I think it would have eclipsed anything that was going to happen at the summit itself.
Well, it was his decision. It
Yeah.
was Putin's decision.
But
It's
it
because
wasn't South Africa's decision.
No, because Putin think about it, or President Putin rather, thought about it in terms of, they're just going to take away from. You look
Right.
at now the issues.
I think it would too.
Yeah,
I think he's right.
you look at now the timing. Just to go back to our first, do you think about
Yeah.
the Biden administration announcing willing to sit down with North Korea
Right.
the same time BRICS summit is starting?
Yeah.
So Putin thought about it ahead of time. It's by just avoiding all this.
Yeah.
He can do it from Moscow, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's just how it's going to work. So.
Well, and I want to end, or well, I don't know if you want to keep going with this, but I want to bring up the something that the South African president Cyril Ramaphosa said.
Yeah.
He said his country will, quote, not be dragged into a competition between world powers. Our country is committed to the policy of non-alignment. Yeah. He stressed that, quote, in a world that is becoming increasingly complex and divided by the increasing polarization in rival camps, he said that South Africa supported the expansion of the BRICS lineup to include countries that share the desire for a more balanced world order.
Yeah, he's hinting at what's taking place right now in with the ECOWAS and Niger and all that, because he understands that is the Western, mainly France and the US, that's pushing ECOWAS behind the scenes. Because if you know anything about the chairman of the ECOWAS, Tinubu had to make a trip in December to London and Washington, and Paris, of course, also to guarantee the support,
solidify that
in
support.
Return for that's why he's doing, and I think it's going to backfire on him inside Nigeria, because Nigerians, including senators, are against. And this military intervention is not going to work. I read the whole analysis from a tactical perspective, and I can see the rationale for it. Ain't gonna work.
Well, and they're not doing it. And I think to speak to your point, they also looked at that and said,
so that's what Ramaphosa is referring to in the idea of, let's not drag us into this geopolitical fight between the US and Russia and China. Because like I said before, Africa is the center now where it's going to become.
Well, and so the one final thing that I want to say about this is there's what seems to be happening on the surface, right? Where there's the fight between the two. But I want to remind everybody that China hosted the World Economic Forum. Now, why?
In the summer session.
In the summer session. Why? I don't know. And a more balanced world order could also sound like singular world order. So I want to put out there, because we are looking at a situation where we think we all know what's going on. We think we know that it's this versus them and all of that. But we're not in those rooms. The best we can do is sort of keep an eye and give the best analysis we can. So I don't know. I'm just putting that information in, because as I hear certain words and as I see certain things, I just want to make sure that that's also heard and that's pointed out as a possibility.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you'll find this very informative, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Remember to join us tomorrow at a Ramble at 12 o'clock. All right. As always,
Prepare
prepare
yourself
yourself
for a
for
changing
challenging world order. Till next time. Bye-bye.